Hey, what's up everyone? Nick here. Welcome back to The Evil Within. Today we are starting the second half of the Julie Kidman experience, and that is the Consequence DLC. So if you don't remember, the first half of the DLC was the assignment, and that's where we played chapters 1 and 2. You can find those on my channel if you didn't see them already. This is going to cover chapters 3 and 4 of the Julie Kidman story, and this will contain the conclusion of the DLC. Again, we're going to be playing on Kurayami mode, which is the hardest difficulty the DLC has to offer. Basically, we have to play the entire game through darkness. So, without further ado, we're going to start from the beginning of Chapter 3, and there's going to be a cutscene, and then we will jump into the gameplay.
Do your past secrets haunt you? Do you wish to tell them, but something holds you back?
Come back, kid. You have a job to do.
No! Stop! Get away from me!
Stop running.
Is it over? I'm back?
Alright, so once you gain control of Julie, you'll be in this hospital-looking area, and we're about to see a very familiar face. Now, if you don't remember, or first off, let me say that if you happen, so you'll see right here, it's Chapter 3 Illusions, and so you might be asking, how is this Chapter 3? You just started the Consequence. So again, in case you missed it, the first two chapters are actually under the Assignment DLC. You can find all of this right on the homepage of my channel, so if you're just starting from this point and you say, hold on, I didn't see what happened in Chapters 1 and 2, go to the channel. On the homepage, you'll see this new tab that I added called Everything Evil Within, and I have everything there. The main game, the Assignment DLC, the Executioner DLC, everything there for your viewing pleasure on the hardest difficulties. So anyway, if you go through this door here, this is what I was talking about, you'll see a familiar face. This is Tatiana. She is the nurse that we come across in the main game while we're playing as Sebastian. So again, in case you forgot, this is the Julie Kidman experience. We are playing what she went through during the main game, behind the scenes of the main game, if you will. It's a really good DLC. The Consequence is actually a bit harder than the Assignment, so I'm going to show you guys some useful strategies and whatnot. But right now we're going to get into a mix of different dialogue, so I'm going to treat this like a cutscene, and I'm going to let you go ahead and listen.
Do you have any idea why this world is the way it is? Hate. Hate. Ruvik's hate. The man's consumed by it. He wants out. Wants to get his revenge. He wants back what he feels the world took from him.
Who's that? How does he know about Ruvik?
Too bad they dragged you into this. But either way, you're mine. To do with as I please.
Sebastian. He must be somewhere else right now. Damn it, he doesn't have anything to do with this. Leslie! If I'm still here, then he must...
Kind of like with Chapter 1 in the Assignment, the beginning of this starts off, there's a lot of kind of short and choppy cutscenes, there's a lot of dialogue to deal with, so basically what I'll be doing is during the important pieces of dialogue, that's when I won't talk. I'll let you guys kind of enjoy that for the story experience, and then during the lesser pieces of dialogue, that's when I'll just continue on with the commentary. So anyway, our goal here, there's a symbol, there's a Mobius symbol on the wall that we have to focus on, but the problem is it's not fully uncovered yet, so we have to kind of trigger a couple different pieces of dialogue before we can get through that door. So what you're going to do is you're going to come back to this back area. Again, if you played the main game, this should all be very familiar. This is where we would come to upgrade or to spend our keys, and this is where the map fragments are. So go ahead and watch this real quick. So that part actually really freaked me out the first time I came across it. But real quick, there's going to be another cutscene.
Society is wounded. People are suffering. Hopeless. Just as you were. Before we saved you. Mobius can now do the same for everyone. STEM is a machine designed to connect everyone's subconscious. And whoever is at the center has the power to influence them. There couldn't be a better tool to change the world, to lead. Society needs a curator, and Mobius will be just that, ushering in the next step of humanity.
So after that, go ahead and return to the main lobby, and there's going to be one more little piece of dialogue that we have to trigger before we can get through the door. So again, what I was talking about was right here. You can see the Mobius symbol on the wall, but we can't get through it yet until we trigger all, I think it was 5 pieces of cutscene. So go through here now. This is where we used to upgrade the Sebastian's abilities.
That boy. He will enable us to change everything.
I'll come back with him.
I needn't remind you the consequences for failure.
Now with that being concluded, we can return to the lobby, take a left right here, and you'll see that we can now get through this door. So again, what you have to do is you have to focus your flashlight on the Mobius symbols, and that will allow you to proceed. Now there's going to be one more piece of dialogue here, and then we'll get into the real bulk of the gameplay.
You should find this useful.
While it is theoretically possible for a host to overwrite themselves on a user, the odds of compatibility are astronomical.
But the boy, Leslie, you're saying he's a compatible subject.
Yes, and based on Ruben's notes, the stem should be able to run with Leslie as its source.
I need you to do tests. Determine what must be done to make him the blank slate we need.
He knew what Leslie was.
Awesome. So now we're good to move on, and we're gonna have all gameplay right here. So from now until about 20 minutes into the video, it's gonna be all gameplay. Now I will say that in my opinion, Chapter 3 is probably the hardest of the 4 chapters with Julie Kidman. I don't know why I keep saying her full name. I'm just gonna say Julie from now on, and hopefully you know who I'm talking. I think the reason I say it is because in the game. Actually, I'm not going to say Julie. I'm going to say Kidman from now on, because in the game that's what they refer to her as is Kidman. You hear Julie a couple times, but mostly people just call her Kidman. And so when I say her name, I'm just I kind of want to say the full name, but yeah. So she goes by Kidman. That was kind of a pointless piece of information. Anyway, go ahead and come through this area. There's a Mobius symbol on the wall, so focus it, and you can proceed on. But like I was saying, Chapter 3 is probably the toughest part. So there's that monster that's been following us. It's the thing with the searchlight for a head, and it's wearing these high heels, and it doesn't have arms. I think I looked online, and it actually has a name. I think it's called Shade, if I remember correctly. That monster is called Shade. And we actually are going to have to... So up until now, Shade has kind of confronted us a couple times, and we just had to run away from her. Now in this level, we're actually going to have to fight her. It turns out the fight is actually pretty simple. It's a lot easier than running away from her, but that is going to be something we have to deal with. There's also going to be a lot more combat in this level, so keep in mind in the first 2 levels we hardly even fought anyone. It's mostly just stealth and sneaking around. But the level does start off with this new mechanic, so you're going to lose your flashlight, and there's going to be these chemical sticks. They're basically like industrial glow sticks, and the good news here is that you have an infinite supply of them. So you can just keep throwing them as much as you want, and they will illuminate the room. These really help. In fact, in a lot of ways, these are better than the flashlight because you don't have to constantly aim it. All you have to do is just spam it. So just throw a ton of them into every corner, every crevice of the room. You can see perfectly, or not perfectly, but you can see a lot better than you can without them. And so they are actually somewhat easier. Now this guy on the ground, he's gonna scare you. So go ahead and just stomp his head in. And then basically for a while, we really don't have to worry about fighting anyone. This part is actually pretty simple to sneak through. There's going to be a couple, so there's going to be like one haunted in the way on our way to the objective, and then there's going to be a couple more on our way back. But again, it's nothing too difficult. So go ahead and peek out of this vent right here. And I'm just being extra cautious because I can hear a haunted, but you don't have to worry, the haunted's not going to come to this area, but there is going to be one somewhat nearby blocking the door. So again, you saw hopefully right there, the haunted was just sneaking past the lower part of the screen, and I think it's a female haunted. She's blocking the door that we need to get through, so you're just going to have to be patient and wait for her to turn around, and then you can obviously get through the door. But again, notice how I'm just throwing these glow sticks at will. Again, you have an infinite supply. Very, very useful. In a lot of ways, I prefer these over the flashlights. Now, keep in mind, there is an achievement for getting through this part of the game only using, I think, 3 or less glow sticks. If you really want to, you can try that, but I recommend doing it on a different playthrough. Why make your life harder than it has to be? So that choice will be yours. I'm just going to go ahead and use all the glow sticks I can because I already got that achievement. Now, in this part, it really pays to throw these glow sticks all over the place because you're going to see there are a few haunted lying on the ground. And as we know from earlier, if a haunted is lying on the ground and it looks dead, it might not actually be dead. So just to save yourself the torture of being grabbed by one, you might want to just avoid them altogether. And of course, the easiest way to do that is by being able to see them.
There must be a way to get the power back on.
So right here, you're going to want to be careful in this room. Stick to the left side. There's actually a gaping hole in the floor on the right side, and I ended up falling in it on my way back. I didn't know about it. Or maybe it's in the next room. I think it's in this one. So in this room right here, stick to the left side because there is a gaping hole on the right, and there's no way past it. If you fall down that hole, you're going to die. So just stick to the left, and then when we backtrack through this room, obviously stick to the right, and you should be fine. But yeah, Chapter 3, I'll give it this. Chapter 3 is the most difficult, in my opinion, but it's also the most fun. It's the most creepy. I really like these chemical lights because I know it's a weird thing to like, but their green glow really kind of sets the tone of the level. It makes it very mysterious and creepy, and one thing that's terrifying is like if you enter a pitch black room and then you throw a glow stick, there might be an enemy right in front of you that you could not see until you throw the glow stick. And it just makes things very scary. Anyway, so I died after I pulled that switch, but there's actually going to be a couple haunted up on the walkways there. You're not going to have to worry about them in this room, but as we backtrack to the room, as we backtrack through these rooms, there are going to be more haunted to worry about, so just be cautious of that. Again, when you get to this room, this is what I was talking about. Now the hole is on the left side, so stick to the right side, and you should be fine. I think altogether there's only like 2 or 3 haunted in this area, and that's including the one that we encountered on our way here. So, again, just kind of knowing where they are so that you can prepare for them, that will make your life a lot easier. And then again, you know, don't worry about wasting these glow sticks or chemical lights. Just use as many of them as you need to. They really do help light the room, and you have an infinite supply, so there's really no reason not to. And then you'll notice I picked up that axe on the ground. I'm actually not going to use it. So anytime you pick up an axe, if you can get by without using it, do that, because the axes are few and far in between. And they're very helpful. They're basically one-hit kills. So if you can stealth past a section without using an axe, that's going to make your life easier a little later down the road. Now, as you approach this door, if you get too close, the door's actually going to fall down, and there are 2 haunted on the other side. So that's why I'm being a bit cautious right here. I'm going to throw a glow stick through this crack, and then I'm going to immediately take cover. So the door should have fallen over automatically, but for some reason it just kind of glitched and got stuck. So then when I threw the glow stick, that's what did it. But you're going to see here's the first haunted, and she's going to go towards the right. So she's going to turn around right now, and she's going to head to the right. And there's going to be another haunted on the left, and so I'm going to play this very slowly. I'm just going to be overly cautious here. So you could see, just barely by me rotating my camera, you could see that haunted on the left side. So I'm going to use this opportunity to just throw as many glow sticks as I can. And keep in mind, the glow sticks act the same way as the flashlight in the sense that if you shine the flashlight right into a haunted's face, it won't notice. The only thing the haunted will notice is you. And that goes for the glow sticks as well. So if you throw a glow stick in front of a haunted, it won't even react. But if you step in front of the haunted, then of course it's gonna see you, whether it's dark or not. But so keep that in mind, because it's very helpful to know in the sense that you can just keep throwing the glow sticks. The only time that a haunted will react is if you hit them with the glow stick. And if you throw it from far enough away, that won't even matter. But that's just something to be cautious of. If you're standing near a haunted and you have to throw a glow stick, maybe don't throw it at the haunted. Otherwise, it's going to react and then chase you and make your life harder than it needs to be. But there's a vent right here, and it's a dead-end vent, but it can still be helpful if one of the haunted sees you. You can just duck into there, wait until it goes away, and then you'll be fine. Now, once you get to this corner here, you're going to see the haunted at the far end of the screen, and it's going to go into that hallway there. And you actually don't have to go through the hallway. There's another vent that you can crawl through. So you see right here on the left, this is the vent. Now the haunted is going to kind of walk back and forth between this hallway. So you see now the haunted reemerged on this side. So I'm going to use the opportunity to try to run away. One thing that you can do is you can actually throw these glow sticks under the vents. And that, makes it easier because when you peek out to check if the coast is clear, you can actually see whether or not it's clear. And so here's that haunted again. So I'm just going to wait, and now he's going to go to the other side, and that's when I can make my move. And as soon as you clear this corner, you should be basically home free. There's not much else to worry about. Here's the ladder that we originally came down. So go ahead and climb up that. And now that the power's on, you should be able to get all the way back to our objective. No problem. So you can see that that part isn't actually very difficult. It's just the idea that you don't have the flashlight. Instead, you have these chemical lights. But in a lot of ways, I actually prefer the chemical lights. I think they're a bit easier. In fact, later on in the game, you're going to get your flashlight back, and at that point you can use both the flashlight and the chemical lights. And there are some points where I actually prefer to use the chemical lights. One area they become particularly useful in is, let's say you come to a room with some enemies in it. What you can do is, as soon as you enter the room, throw some chemical lights in every corner just so you can kind of light up the room, and then equip your flashlight for that extra bit of light. But the benefit there is that once you throw a chemical light, that light's there to stay. Whereas the flashlight, you have to constantly be aiming it, and you can't see in any other area except for the area that you're aiming. So that's why, in a lot of ways, the chemical lights can be a lot more useful. Alright, so now that the power's on, you can scan your hand on that thing and get through. You will approach this couch, and this is your first opportunity to save the game, so if you want, go ahead and do that. So again, if you notice the small little detail there, I'm actually playing this on a New Game Plus, so Kurayami mode is not playable from the very beginning. You do have to beat the game once before you can unlock this difficulty. And with good reason. This would be a lot harder to beat had you never played the game before. One of the reasons I'm able to go through it relatively quickly is because I just played the game on regular difficulty. So I have a somewhat, I'm somewhat familiar with the layout of the levels.
Reuben was quite insane. A compromise of ethics on our part. He seemed motivated, obsessed.
So this is just a little bit of the dialogue from the Mobius Man. Now, keep in mind, like I was saying, the whole a big point of these DLCs is to kind of highlight what Kidman was doing during the main story when you play as Sebastian, because you obviously find out that she's not really who she says she is. She kind of has ulterior motives and everything like that. So that's what this DLC is meant to do. It's meant to shed a lot of light on what was actually going on behind the scenes in the game. And I'll tell you right off the bat, at the end of Chapter 4, that's going to be the last chapter of her story. At the end of Chapter 4, there's actually a cutscene that is ridiculously important to the story. And I can't believe they put it in a DLC, because it's a cutscene that I feel is going to play a huge part in The Evil Within 2, and given the fact that most people don't play DLCs, that means most people are never going to see that cutscene. And then when The Evil Within 2 comes, they're probably going to reference what happened in that cutscene, and they're just going to say, where the hell did that come from? I don't ever remember that being in the game. Anyway, go ahead and approach this lab right here, and that will trigger a little flashback between Jimenez and the Mobius Man.
This machine was designed for me. People like you. You took my life away. Turned me into an abomination. Finally, with this machine, I can go back. I can live the life I was supposed to have.
We are forgiving. We are willing to overlook your certain peculiarities for what you can provide us. But you are testing our limits. Our manpower, our resources are not here for your pathetic fantasy. You will reverse the calibration on the machine so we can use it without you.
And what if I say no? You think Jimenez can fix this? You need me, and there's no way around it.
Ruvik. No. Reuben. This was where he was doing his research with us. We were just using him. And I doubt he's the first.
And that's another reason I really enjoyed this DLC, was because it not only shed light on Kidman and her life, it shed a lot of light on Jimenez and Ruvik and the Mobius Man, and revealed some really, really important backstory to, you know, how this all came about. If you haven't played the DLC for yourself, I highly recommend you do so, because there are a lot of collectibles in the game that are actually audio tapes recorded by Jimenez that shed even more backstory onto the story. And again, remember, I'm not getting the collectibles in this walkthrough, so if you really want the full experience, I highly recommend you play it for yourself and try to get all the collectibles. Now right here you're going to see Shade, and you're going to have to do this very quickly. So Shade is going to unlock this door, open it, and then immediately start running. Try to throw a couple glow sticks just so you can actually see where you're going, but you're going to have to move very quickly here, because whenever you're caught in Shade's beam, you're going to move slower. So you have to be very quick here, and now this part's kind of hard. So you're going to get a checkpoint. As soon as you get into this room, start throwing glow sticks. Throw as many as you can, because you're not going to have a lot of time here. So approach this corner of the room, trigger the hand thing, but then just go ahead and ignore it. Don't even... Or actually not ignore it, but unlock it, and then you see that it's going to take some time for the elevator or for the door to actually open. So initiate it by scanning your hand, and then immediately start running circles around the room. And I find that the best strategy for Shade is to just run around the outer perimeter of the room. So I threw all those glow sticks so that now I can kind of see where I'm going. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick to the outer perimeter here. I'm going to rotate my camera so that I can see where Shade is, and then watch this. So Shade's going to approach me, and so I'm just going to run around the opposite way. One good thing to know about Shade that I learned in this playthrough actually is that she doesn't seem to respond to hearing. I don't think she has ears. So that means that you can actually sprint away from her instead of crawling. Now right here I got super nervous because I ran out of stamina. The exit is right in front of me, and I freaking ran out of stamina, so you see how she's kind of curled over. Luckily, I had just enough time to open this vent before Shade was able to catch up to me, but that part had me really nervous. But yeah, so that's a very useful thing to know, is that Shade does not seem to react to you running. So if you're in a corner and she starts approaching you, just run away. You know, obviously she reacts to seeing you, but she doesn't seem to care about hearing you. I don't even think she can hear you. Now you're gonna see this room here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna throw a couple glow sticks under the door before I actually enter this room, because as soon as you come inside, Shade's going to enter with you. And we're gonna kind of have to do the same thing here. So right off the bat, throw as many glow sticks as you can just to kind of light up the room. And in the far corner, you should see the elevator. So this is the same room, or a very similar room to back in Chapter 1 of the game. And so you see here, once again you have to scan your hand, but I didn't have quite enough time, and Shade nearly caught me. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to intentionally let Shade see me, and I'm going to lure her to the back of the room here. As soon as she loses sight of you, go ahead and sprint back to the front of the room, scan your hand, and you can see that now she's at the very back of the room, so I have plenty of time to open this door. Unfortunately, even though you scan your hand, it's going to take a couple seconds to actually unlock the door, so now we're going to resort to the same strategy. I'm going to intentionally let her see me, lure her to the back of the room, again, kind of just stick to the outer perimeter here, and then you see the door is going to open up in just a couple seconds, and that's when I'll make my run for it. So there we go, Shade just saw me, she's going to follow me to the back of the room. The elevator is now open, and all you have to do is get to it, and the doors will automatically close behind you, and you're good to go. And I think, if I remember correctly, that is the last part where you actually have to just evade her. Next time we see her, we will have a weapon, and we can actually fight her, and that's when we'll be able to defeat Shade once and for all. But right here, you will take a little piece of damage. Shade's gonna slam her stilettos through the ceiling. Now, the good thing about Julie or Kidman is that you don't have to use syringes to heal. You actually just have to sit still. So I don't fully know how that's realistic, but if you take any damage, just stand still for a couple seconds and you can see her health will automatically regenerate. And now the elevator door is open, so we can move on. So again, just spam the chemical lights. Let me know what you guys think too. So if you've been watching this entire DLC playthrough, chapters 1, 2, and 3, obviously you haven't seen chapter 4 yet, but let me know what has been the most enjoyable for you. So like I said, chapter 3, even though it's the hardest, for me it's the most fun. So I'd be curious to know what you guys think is the best one in terms of watching. And right here I just wanted to show you real quick how that worked. So I intentionally threw the chemical light at the corpse, or at the crawler, I can never remember what they're called. And you see how it momentarily became alert, and then it lost interest automatically. So there's going to be this one right here blocking your way. I'm going to throw a chemical light over it just to kind of light my path. Now I'm going to let this guy go in his path. Make my move. Take a right. Just go ahead and sneak right in front of that guy. This part's actually really simple. And now you can see I'm going to sneak behind this one, crawl under the shelf, and that's it. Now we can go up to the door and get out of here. And I think this is the only area where we have to deal with those type of enemies, so that's somewhat good news, I suppose. And keep in mind too, chapter 3 is also the longest. Or I haven't yet played chapter 4, so I haven't recorded chapter 4, but so far, chapter 3 is the longest by far. So the other two chapters were about 40 minutes apiece, give or take. This one is just under an hour. So, yeah, just so you know. Anyway, keep following the path. It's pretty simple. There's only one way to go. And you're going to burst your way through these doors here. And now we're going to have another piece of small dialogue. Once you enter this room, just throw some chemical lights to light it up, and that will trigger the dialogue.
Show me.
Keep your emotions out of this, Jimenez. He brought this upon himself. We gave him a chance.
Where is he?
If you really wish to know, he's in the next room. Come, see.
Alright, so again, now you can pick up your flashlight, and you can actually switch between the flashlight and the chemical light. So you do that by holding up on the directional pad and then pressing X, and that's how you switch back and forth. Now, most people are probably just going to use the flashlight from this point on, and with good reason, but the chemical lights still do serve a purpose. So, for example, let's say you're in a room later on where we're going to fight Shade. One useful thing is right off the bat you might want to throw some chemical lights around just to light the room up a bit, and then equip your flashlight to make things a little easier. But anyway, here's another piece of dialogue.
This is despicable. What is this monstrosity?
Despicable? from the man using his own patients to further his own research? The irony of this situation is amusing. But even you must realize what we can do with this.
This means STEM will run. We can continue the experiments.
And your assistance is even more necessary than before.
This whole project, from the beginning, it was about deceit.
Alright, after that, this door is going to appear, and there's going to be a password, a specific password that you have to enter. So you're going to take a right and look over at this whiteboard, and you can see that when you shine your flashlight on it, some of the symbols disappear. So this is where you want to stand, and that's the pattern you're going to want to remember. So I'm just going to hold it for a couple seconds so you know exactly how to solve this puzzle. So stand right here, shine your light on the whiteboard, and then just memorize that pattern. Then turn around. You can see there was my previous failed attempt because I wasn't standing in the right spot. But now I'm going to enter in what I hope to be the correct pattern, and voila, there we go. Okay, with that being done, go ahead and continue down the path.
What you see here is one of the first STEM prototypes.
And you'll just hear the Mobius man. I was looking around trying to see where they were. They're not actually present. This is something that Kidman heard before she went into STEM, and you can see this room right here. All the bathtubs in the center of the room. Those are the things that you lie in to fully be immersed in STEM. This is a room we've seen already in the main game a couple of times. But anyway, you don't have to linger here too long. Go ahead and make your way through these double doors. And then once you get inside, that's going to trigger yet again, you guessed it, another cutscene.
There are some things here that are to remain in the dark. Especially for you, kid. You're asking too many questions, ignoring your mission. Running from responsibility. Just like you always do.
No, that's not true. You don't know me.
That much is obvious. But we need to make sure you do what you're told.
You're lying to me, hiding things. I can't trust you, not like this.
You are not required to trust us. Only to obey.
So at this point, we are a little over halfway done with Chapter 3. There's going to be another couch right here, so you can take this opportunity to save your game. I'm getting really excited because I only have one more achievement left in this game, and that is for beating this on Kurayami mode. So at the time of recording this commentary, I just have to beat Chapter 4. And it's been about a week since I played Chapter 4, so I might have to play through it one more time to get my bearings back. But if I remember correctly, it wasn't that difficult. It was a lot of stealth sections, which weren't that tough, and then there was like the final boss fight. So the final fight might be a little difficult if I remember it correctly, but for the most part, I don't remember Chapter 4 being too tough. It was Chapter 3 that I was most worried about. And surprisingly, I actually got through this with a very small amount of deaths. I think during my recording, I only died like 4 or 5 times, which is not bad. I was definitely expecting it to be more than that. But anyway, you're going to come to this very, very long ladder. So you're just going to make your way down. And what's going to happen, I'll just let you know ahead of time, is we are going to enter the Crimson City Police Department. So Crimson City, that is the fictional town where all of these characters work and live. And the police department is where Sebastian and Joseph and Julie all work. So we're going to enter the police department, and there's going to be about a 3-minute long interaction. It's not really a cutscene, but it's like a string of dialogues. You'll see what I mean when we get there. But they're very important because they actually feature Sebastian and Joseph, and it has Sebastian talking about his wife and kid, which we know very little about from the main story. So if you're interested at all in the story, especially if you're going to be playing The Evil Within 2, because I'll tell you right now, the second one is going to have a much bigger emphasis on Sebastian's past with his wife and daughter. So all of that's going to be all of this story is going to be very important, I think, going into the sequel. So if you want, feel free to watch it all. Otherwise, you might want to skip 3 minutes ahead because that's when the next amount of gameplay is going to resume. But yeah, so just enter through here, approach this door, and that will start the string of dialogue.
How's Lily doing?
Great. Everything's going fine. Just wish my wife would be home more to take care of her.
She barely took maternity leave, huh? One of Crimson's finest, I suppose. She's a great cop in her own right, but we can manage without her for a little longer.
You should hope she doesn't hear you say that, or you'll be out in your ass, Joseph.
This looks like it's way before I got here. Everyone's so much younger. But Sebastian's profile didn't say he was married. Let alone a child.
Look, Seb, we need to talk. Going off with your conspiracy theories, you're getting out of control. You don't pull that in front of the captain.
I'm onto something, Joseph. I don't need you hiding shit from me, too.
I'm not, Sebastian. I'm trying to help. I want to help. But you need to think about this carefully. Your daughter, it was a loss everyone on the force felt. But your wife is...
Myra left, Joseph. She left. When we needed each other the most, Myra left me. What would make her do that? I have to know. I don't care what it costs.
His daughter, then his wife? One right after the other? No wonder he always seemed so closed off.
Julie Kidman? She barely has any experience. We don't even know anything about her. Send her out canvassing witnesses then. Let her see the streets.
No. She's coming with us. I'm going to train her. She's my responsibility.
Look, I know you say it's personal, and I don't like to talk about it. But we can't have your misplaced guilt leading to rookies slowing us down.
Sebastian. He and Joseph weren't supposed to be involved. It shouldn't have happened like this. This is Crimson? This can't be real. The light.
A STEM prototype at Beacon.
Alright, now get ready. This is going to be a long stretch of gameplay, about 17 minutes, and this will basically lead us into the end of the level. And there's a lot going on here. So the first things first, we are no longer in like a tightly compact building. We're actually out on the rooftops. We're going to be entering like a construction zone. So the glow sticks play a huge part here because you can just throw them all over the place to kind of light your path in front of you. The flashlight has a very limited range of visibility, so by throwing these glow sticks, we're just making our life a little easier so that we can somewhat see the path in front of us. Because, you know, when you're in a small building, it's easy to navigate because there's not much room to vary in a hallway. But when you're out here in the open, it's a lot easier to get lost. So these glow sticks are going to be much more valuable. So you see right here, there's going to be this walkway connecting the two buildings. So go ahead and jump on that. Take a right, and then take a left. Now I'm going to equip my flashlight. The path in front of you is going to break, so then just backtrack and go this way. There's going to be a couple haunted in this area. So the first one is right here, and you're going to be introduced to a somewhat new mechanic. It is pushing. So when an enemy is standing near a ledge, you can actually push them off. And again, remember, since we're on these really high rooftops and catwalks, all you have to do is push them off and they'll die. So you'll notice I still have an axe in my inventory. However, you could actually get through this entire part without using an axe. So if you can do that, do that. But I'll let you know right now that if you have to use an axe, there is one in the area. So you're going to see what happens for me is I have to use one of my axes, but then I'm just going to go ahead and pick another one up right away. And you'll see what I mean by that right now. So There's going to be 2 haunted in this area. One of them's going to be kind of far off, so you don't have to worry about it for now. And you're going to barely be able to see it in the distance. So right in front of me right now, it's over there. And so we're not going to have to worry about that guy yet. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw a glow stick over there just so I can, you know, see him if I need to. So you see that glow stick landed perfectly by him. I'm going to throw a couple glow sticks into this room here, because in this room, that's where the next haunted's going to be. There is a vent, so if the haunted sees you, like he sees me, you're going to just want to run for the vent. So right here, he's standing next to a ledge, so I'm going to go try to push him off, but then he just turned around at the wrong time, so I'm just going to duck into this vent. There's the axe I was talking about. So again, I already have an axe in my inventory, but if you need one, that's where you can find it. And so I'm just going to hide in this room, and I'm going to wait for him to lose interest. And then as soon as he does, I'm going to go out and kill him. So he turns around, hop out, and I'll use my axe. Now, one reason I felt fine with using the axe was, again, because I already had one in my inventory, so now I can just go ahead and replace it with this one. Because you can't carry 2 axes at the same time anyway, so it didn't really benefit me to keep the first one if there was a second one right there. And so right here I got turned around, but that's I just passed the door that I needed to go through. So you're gonna see I just got completely turned around. The haunted is over there, and the doorway it's again, it's just hard to see in the dark, but it's right here to the left. And so my timing was just a bit off here, because you see that haunted, he's going to go and approach the ledge, but he's only going to stand there for about 2-3 seconds, and then he's going to turn back around. So you see how if I had started to pursue him, he would have turned around and saw me, and then I probably would have had to use my axe again. So I'm just going to wait right here, and in this case it just kind of pays to be patient. So the haunted, he won't go onto the catwalk unless he sees you. So as soon as he turns around, make your move. Start creeping up as fast as you can behind him. And now you're going to see here I get the prompt to kill him, but it's with my axe, so I'm going to wait a second, and then he's going to get closer to the ledge, and that's when I have the option to push him instead of hit him with the axe. And so if you can save your axe, definitely save it, because it just pays to have it later on. Alright, and so we're actually approaching the first real part of the DLC where we get to use a gun. So if you remember back in chapters 1 and 2, we've basically been doing this whole thing without a weapon. There was one brief part in chapter 2 where we got to use a gun, but it was kind of a limited part. We were pinned down under all this concrete, and as soon as we finished that section, the gun was useless because I think it was out of ammo, or we ended up losing it later on. But this part here, this is going to be the first part where we actually get a gun and get to use it just like Sebastian, kind of like in a regular combat scenario. So go ahead and duck through this hole in the wall. I think there's a collectible behind the counter here. Again, I'm not gonna go for those, so I just decided to pass it. I think there's actually like 2 or 3 collectibles in this area, but again, I'm just not interested because I already got them during my initial playthrough. I always avoid doing collectibles in my walkthroughs because you know, I play the games on the hardest difficulties, so obviously I have some skill with the game, but one thing I'm terrible at is finding collectibles by myself. I always use walkthroughs to find collectibles, and typically what I do is I'll play the game first for just fun. I won't even worry about the collectibles. Then I'll play the game again on the hardest difficulty for my walkthrough, and then I'll play again on a 3rd time, and that's when I'll get all the collectibles to get usually the platinum. So I never get the collectibles unless I know I can get the platinum trophy or 100% of the achievements. If there's a game where I know I'm not going to be able to get the platinum, then I just don't even bother with the collectibles, because for me, I don't find any interest in them. Sometimes, though, that's different. So a lot of the times I feel like the collectibles are just pointless little trinkets. But like I said, in this DLC, the collectibles are actually really important. They shed a lot of light on the backstory. In Batman, the collectibles are all placed by the Riddler, and a lot of them kind of shed light on some of the lesser-known Batman characters. So those collectibles are pretty fun as well, and those collectibles are a lot of fun because it's usually not about finding them, it's about solving the puzzle that surrounds it. So the Batman collectibles are a lot of fun. Another one that I enjoy finding is the Tomb Raider collectibles. So in the Tomb Raider reboot games, the collectibles, before I got into physics, I actually had an interest in archaeology, and so in the Tomb Raider game, obviously she's like in the reboot, she's a rookie archaeologist, and so she spends all this time finding these artifacts. But the cool thing about the game is that it's not just these little trinkets. They actually put some information in with the collectibles, like what time period it's from, and what it was used for. And so it's actually kind of like an educational collectible system. And so I like collecting those. Whereas, in Uncharted, even though I love Uncharted, the collectibles in those games are just kind of boring. It's a bunch of little trinkets, but that's it. There's no descriptions about them. There's no realism to it. It's just a bunch of little things that you have to pick up for the sake of getting the trophy. So I don't know. I think collectibles are something that they just shouldn't put in games unless they put some thought into it, because otherwise it's just a waste of time. But anyway, let me know what you think about that. What do you think about collectibles in games, especially when it just gets overboard? Like, if a game like this here, the DLC, I think there's a total of 14 collectibles or something like that. I've played games where there are a couple hundred collectibles, and at that point it just gets old. It starts to lose its fun. So let me know what you think about that. Alright, so we're getting closer to the end here. We have two things left to worry about. So we're about to pick up the gun that I mentioned earlier, and we're going to have to fight a couple of Haunted. That part is actually a lot easier. So I was worried about this upcoming part. I was actually worried about it when I started recording, because I had some trouble with it on my initial playthrough, but then I ended up beating the entire part without dying. And so if I can do it, you can do it. Yeah, definitely. So here's another couch. I think this is going to be the last one before the end of the level, so you might want to take this time to save your game. Alright, and now we can continue on. So we're going to be at a construction site. It's very similar to Chapter 11 in the main game during the monorail section. It's a very similar setting to that. And you're gonna see, I think in total you have to kill about, if I remember correctly, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it's 8 haunted or 9 haunted, which sounds like a lot, but if you follow my strategies, I think I'll be able to show you a really easy way to get through it. Alright, so go ahead and follow the path. Again, it's really dark, so just try to find your way. That actually does make it a bit difficult to record a walkthrough when it's completely dark, because I really have to make sure I show you everything. Usually I don't have to walk you through following the right path, because you can do that yourself, but in this game it's a bit harder. Now anyway, when you drop down here, there's going to be a Haunted on the monorail, and he's going to be firing a machine gun at you. So go ahead and take cover behind these concrete slabs. The monorail is going to go all the way to the right, so once you get an opening right here, I'm going to turn around, and I'm going to run for this storage room right here. And inside is a pistol and a bunch of ammo. So go ahead and equip the gun. Luckily, the flashlight stays on while you aim the gun, otherwise this would be a lot harder. And now your first goal is to kill this guy. And there's a barrel right behind him, so just go ahead and shoot the barrel to save yourself some ammo. And now get ready. 3 guys are about to rush you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand in this exact location, and I'm just going to shoot them all as they run towards me. Go for chest shots here. Don't even bother with headshots. Just shoot them in the chest. It should take 3 hits to kill them. And there you go. Now again, you'll notice there's a lot of explosive barrels lying around, so if you want, you can try to get them all to kind of conglomerate near the barrels and then just shoot the barrel. That'll save you some ammo, but it's not really necessary. There's a lot of ammo to have in this section, and If you try to get them all near the barrel, that's when things get a little more complicated, because if you don't shoot them quick enough, they'll start running towards you. And you know, obviously, if they start running, that's when things get a little more hectic, and it's easier to panic and start missing shots. So I prefer to just shoot them all in the chest right away. Now right here, pick up this ammo and then pull the lever. And what's going to happen is more enemies are going to come through that doorway. So I'm going to actually take cover behind the concrete slab, and I'm just going to shoot them as they enter the doorway. The good news here is that the doorway is only wide enough to let in one enemy at a time. So if you can just keep shooting them as they enter, you shouldn't really have a problem here. Now again, it's easier said than done. You're going to see I even have a little hiccup here. So here comes the first guy, here comes the second guy. Again, I'm just going for headshots. Now this guy, he's going to get past me, and he's going to run in while I was reloading. So finish him, immediately aim back at the door, and then shoot the guy running towards you. Now again, you might be able to do that a little better than I did. It turns out though, this guy on the ground, he wasn't fully dead, so I'm going to go ahead and finish the job. And now there's going to be 2 guys left to worry about. So I'm just going to stand here for a second, make sure they're not coming. And now what's going to happen is they're actually going, so you see this area across the gap, that's where they're going to come from, and they're going to travel across the monorail. So I'm going to sprint over here right by this yellow barrel. So you see how the monorail path is now in place so that you can cross the gap, and 2 enemies are going to come at you. So again, just go for chest shots, 3 apiece, and that's it. That will finish off this section. This is a part that I actually, for some reason, I had trouble with this part on my initial... Oh, okay, turns out there was one more guy. So I'm glad I turned around. So don't forget about that. I did. But there you go. So I think that was a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys total, I think. Maybe I'm missing a couple. But anyway, that will be the end. I guarantee you now. So if you run over here, there's going to be some more ammo you can pick up. And you are going to want to get as much ammo as you can, and you're going to want to try to... That's why the barrels could come in handy in this part, because you want to try to save as much ammo as you can, because in the next part we're going to actually fight Shade, and we're going to kill her. And to be honest, you can actually kill her with just like 3 headshots, but obviously you can't just perfectly get 3 headshots in a row, or maybe you can, but it's hard to do, so you want to have as much ammo as possible just to be safe. Because even if you don't get a headshot, if you hit her, you'll still do some damage. So try to bring as much ammo into this next part as you can. But you're going to see that this fight tends to not really be that difficult. In fact, it's probably just the very beginning that's the hardest. So at the end of this path, you can actually see that that's her. That's Shade off in the distance. Alright, and now you're going to be thrown into the fight. So right off the bat, she's going to see you. And that's when I'm going to start going for headshots. And so I was able to get 1 right there, but I'm going to have to get a few more. So she's going to start chasing you. And you can see that once she locks onto you, that's when you start moving very slowly. Now, if this happens, you're going to want to stick to a pillar and just travel around it in circles. Cut those corners very tightly, and then after a while you should be able to escape her gaze. And there you see I got the headshot. Now I'm going to go shooting at her again. Always aim for the head. That's going to cause the most damage, but you see here I ran out of ammo. So now my life becomes a little harder because I'm going to have to run around looking for some. Now again, kind of the general strategy is just stick to the outer perimeter of the room, just like we have in every other time we've come across her. And that is because it allows you to run away from her a lot easier. And there are a lot of pillars in this room. So if you can just cut her gaze once, then you can sprint away without a problem. So I just picked up 3 bullets. 1, 2, and there we go. So again, you see how easy it is to fight her if you just go for headshots. Honestly, don't even bother shooting her anywhere else. Now, you know, if you miss the head and end up hitting her somewhere else, then that's fine. But try to make it your goal to go for headshots, and she'll actually go down very quickly. So that was a fight that on my initial playthrough I had some trouble with. But then once I realized how quickly she went down with headshots, I actually did this on my first try. And it turns out that the light in this situation really doesn't matter. Having no light isn't a problem. You still have your flashlight, and that's all you really need. So luckily that makes things a little easier. And that's pretty much it, guys. We're basically done with Chapter 3. You're going to go down this hallway. That's going to trigger a cutscene, and then we're going to have one last area where we have to kind of run away from the Mobius Man, and that will be the end of the level.
If you hadn't come along...
Save it for later. There are probably more of them around.
Sebastian? What is...
Stay back. She's my responsibility.
I'm sorry for putting you through this. I don't want to hurt you any more than I already have. He might try to stop me through you.
A little hasty with that gun, kid. What is it you plan on doing?
What I have to do.
No! You do what we say. You will come back with that boy, or you will disappear.
Alright, so very similar to the end of Chapter 2, you just have to run away from this guy and pay attention to what's in front of you, because there are going to be a couple times where you have to dodge some things. So take a right. Now, once you get to the end of this hallway, I think you're going to take another right. Or, sorry, you're going to take a left, and then the next one. So stick to the left, then stick to the right. And now right here, take a right. And now you're going to see the spider arms come down. This is the spider that you fight in Chapter 12. And you're going to see how the next cutscene kind of leads you right into Chapter 12 from the main game.
Joseph. Can't be.
This thing gonna run?
Only one way to find out.
Shit!
What are you doing? Answer me.
Fuck this place.
And there you go. We are one step closer to being done with the Julie Kidman DLC on Kurayami mode. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Like and subscribe if you get the chance. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next video where we finally finish this off.